Hi everyone, thanks so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today's topic is all about resolutions for happiness in the new year. Now I want you to tell me, what are you going to do in the new year that you think is going to make you happier? Let me know in the comments section. What are you going to try out? What are you going to experiment with? What is going to be your mantra, your rule book, your habits that you believe will make you experience more happiness every single day? So today, our guest is extremely special. I'm really excited to actually be with him. We've just been having a chat before the session, and his genuineness just exudes from him, which is unbelievable. It's always nice to meet someone who's talking about happiness, who naturally has that. He is actually a social innovator, a social entrepreneur. He's been one of these people that really has taken to heart having a higher purpose to elevate human consciousness, but in a strategic way. He's working with thought leaders, he's working with other social innovators, he's working with activists across the world, and he's also founded the World Happiness Summit. His name is Luis Gallardo. Luis, thank you so much for being here.
Well, it's a pleasure.
Yeah.
If there is somebody who is a social innovator, who is an amazing communicator, it's you as well. So for me, it's an honor being here. I feel this is home.
Oh, good. Yeah, me too. I feel very comfortable with you already. So no, it's brilliant to have you here. And for our audience that may not have heard about some of the great work you're doing, just introduce yourself to them so that they know more about you and your background.
Well, basically, one day the universe decided that I had to focus on something very important, which is choosing happiness. So,
awesome. Yes.
and actually, one day you say, okay, what do I want to be when I grow up? How can I make a bigger impact in the world? Because some people are happy just saying, well, I'm happy with myself and I'm gonna be relaxed and I'm gonna be calm. But I have an energy inside that says, well, whatever you do in your life, do it and try to make an impact to help others achieve their potential. So at some point, I've been very lucky because over many years, my job has been coaching on legacy and helping people to build their legacies. And for some reason, over the last years, I was only coaching people who are in the space of well-being and happiness. So I said, what's going on? I mean, why all this is happening? And I met all these amazing people, from Nobel Peace laureates to spiritual leaders to psychologists. And the thread was kind of very unique. And I said, well, what's going on? So, and once you talk to all these amazing people, you realize that we are connected to the universe, that we have a collective mind. So I did a lot of research on that, and I discovered that probably I found my sweet spot. Mm-hmm. I found that spot where you can actually bring your past, your experiences, and try to make a bigger impact. For many years I worked in the corporate world, but at the same time that feeling was new to me and I wanted to explore. And I realized that actually there is an amazing space today in the world which is actually bringing silos down, bringing people from different disciplines and having the human in the center from an holistic point of view and say, how can we help from the whole being to grow people and bring them potentials to life. And actually one of the space I found was the space of bringing people together in a summit. Mm-hmm. And actually that's something that I explore more and more. I was, for many years, a strategy partner of the World Economic Forum. Mm-hmm. And it was funny because when you go there, you go to Davos and you meet all these amazing leaders, I always thinking it's amazing that economy is always the frame, it's always the framework. But you know that when you are in India for 3 years and you actually find yourself and you realize that even with not much money, you can achieve a lot of happiness.
Definitely.
So my question in many years there was like, what about if the framework that all these global leaders were using instead of economy was happiness?
For sure. Amazing.
And actually, when you think from a strategic way, and you know how to do that, when you think strategy, you have levers. And when you put happiness at the core, all the levers start aligning, and all of the levers start looking in a different way. So I did a lot of strategy work, and I realized that actually when you put the lens of happiness and you choose happiness, everything supports that.
Definitely.
So you keep in mind happiness as an ultimate currency. That helps you a lot to achieve the ultimate goal. So basically here the challenge, and I need you for this, is how do we help people to change the lens and using happiness as the ultimate currency, and how we are gonna get the different skills, different levers that requires in order to do more. So actually I came to this space because I had to do it. Of course in life you know many people, and that people start opening doors as well for you, and they encourage you to do more. But basically that's the long answer to the question.
Scientific research in positive psychology has got happiness trending again. You know, a lot more people are talking about happiness. Maybe, you know, even 5 years ago, 10 years ago, people may not have been talking about happiness in such a big way across the world in such important spaces. Why do you think we're giving it so much attention again? Like, why is it that happiness almost, even though it sounds weird because it should be the top priority,
yes.
Why is it all of a sudden we've started paying it more attention? What do you think from your work?
Yeah, this is an amazing question, and I think that there is not always one single answer. There is not only one single answer. There are several answers. But I think that actually last night we were having dinner with the president of a top coaching association, and he was saying, well, you know, the way I feel is that now science is catching up with things that actually were in the collective understanding for years. But right now we have a lot of researchers, especially in the United States, in Mexico, in Asia, of course, there is a lot of research, but it's not as well known. But I feel like because we are going through an amazing timing of transformation, global transformation, and actually many people say that part of the frequency is changing a lot. This is helping many people to get anxiety. We are getting into a world where consumerism and the use of I want to have more defines who you are, and especially in kids and this millennial generation is really used to almost have everything they need, so they need to find new ways. So depending on what generation you look at, we are going through transformation at the personal level, at the society level, at the macro level, even at the universe energy, the energy of the universe level. So depending how you look at the question, you can realize that because of the way the world is moving today, because of the pressures of tensions in the world, because of the politicians, because of the so many people who actually still use just one part of the brain, which is more used, focus on fear, this reptilian brain that actually makes you defend yourself all the time. Depending on different factors, actually you realize that we are in a unique moment in the world that is creating a lot of frustration to so many people in so many places. Yeah, there is a lot of injustice everywhere. And when that happens, that push people to actually find, well, what is going on? And people don't feel good. And actually when you don't feel good, naturally you have to find a way to feel better.
Yes.
So I think that I would say that we are in a perfect storm from an emotional point of view, spiritual point of view, politics point of view, and society level point of view, that is bringing a lot of factors together. And we are lucky that now there is a lot of science.
Yes.
And for some people, especially in the corporate world, they need facts.
Definitely.
So now you can back up intuition with facts. That helps a lot of people to make a leap.
I think that's a great answer. And it's almost like we're at that cusp where things aren't too bad or too good. There's an ability to make a change. Like if there's too much pain, it kind of feels like can't do anything. And if things are too good, we don't ask those questions. We don't worry. We don't want to make a change. Yes. But it feels like what you're saying is that we're at the precipice. We're at that point where actually there's enough pain, questions, desire to want to get better, happier, move away from the politics, the challenges across the world. Definitely.
I could agree more. It's that pressure that now is moving people. Just in the United States, people spend $10 billion US on antidepressive. But people spend the same amount, $10 billion on self-motivating books.
Yes, yeah, that's right, yeah.
So, I mean, this is amazing, right?
Yeah.
Because at some point you know that you have to do something, and you are spending tons of money in finding what you don't get from your inside. And actually, that's key. I mean, you know that.
No,
because you've been into into yourself and finding yourself for a long time. But once you discover that happiness is inside, I mean, we could save a lot of money.
That's a good way of looking at it.
But actually, we are not there yet.
Yeah.
We are still that, I have to find something, I have to do this,
Yeah.
I have to do that. And this is why we need a global movement that actually raises awareness of what is happiness as a skill.
Yeah.
Because when you get happiness as a skill, then you realize that it's a question of time and it's a question of focus, and that helps, and it's gonna help a lot of people. But I completely agree with you, there's some pressure right now that is making so many human beings uncomfortable.
Yeah, great answer. I love the examples. We've got some questions coming in from the audience already. Paris says, how to choose happiness when things are not going as you planned or expected? What have you read in your research? You've met so many amazing people. You yourself are living this. You know, her question is how to choose happiness when things are not going as planned or expected.
This is a great question. And this is a question that probably we ask ourselves every day, right?
Yeah.
I think the US today, especially for those in the US, is going through a transformation in many ways, but one of them is the political level. Mm-hmm. I mean, so many millions of people didn't get the output they expected.
Yes.
So this question applies to that, is what do you do now? And I really like Deepat's, one of the answers. Actually, he didn't get a lot of positive, he always gets a lot of positive criticism. And in this case, he got a bit negative. But I understand why, because there is a lot of frustration. But basically, here the answer is, normally we build stories in our minds. We are people, we are thinkers. Mm-hmm. We are always creating narratives in our mind. We are always creating stories. And at some point, we link our emotions naturally to those stories. We link naturally feelings to narratives. And at some point in the narrative, and we are thinking that this is gonna be bad, this is gonna be terrible, this is gonna be so cruel. You are anticipating the pain because you are linking the story with your emotions. Mm-hmm. I feel like in this case, we have to change the story. Mm-hmm. So depending how things are bad, you have to realize that you are creating that story in your mind. Definitely. And when you are creating the story in your mind, and you know that that's linked to the emotion, and you identify what emotion it is, and you know in many ways that emotions is going to provoke you physical pain. Yeah. So imagine story, emotion, physical pain, just because the story. Yeah. The easy answer is change the story. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's not, but it's not difficult. It's not easy to do it, because how do you change the story? And actually, in order to change the story, you have to identify the story first, and then you have to, at some moment in time, let it go. Mm-hmm. And when that story goes, immediately the emotions goes and the pain goes. So it looks like complex. It looks like easy at the same time. It requires a bit of skill. That's it.
Kevin says, Luis, what books or speakers have had major impacts on you that has inspired your work?
Well, I think that many. I've been so fortunate over the last year to actually read a lot of books and meet a lot of thinkers. I think that, a classic one is The Power of Now. Mm-hmm. Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now is one of those that if you haven't read, you have to read. Yeah. But at the same time, when you go through it, you have to keep in mind that it's written by somebody that when was a kid was suffering a lot. Mm. So actually at some point you know that we have to live in the moment, which is not easy at all. Mm-hmm. But actually what I would recommend is that when you go through the book, you keep in mind that it's written by somebody who knows suffering. Sure. But suffering in a personal, when he was a kid, which actually makes a lot of your future stories going forward. Mm. So I think The Power of Now is definitely a must. But I think that you go more into the positive psychology space, which now is helping so much to so many people to get facts. Mm-hmm. I think that another classic is Happier. Yes. By Tal Ben-Sahar, of The Competitive Advantage by Sean Aker. Yeah. Actually, they are really good friends, and they are coming to Miami in March. I think that those three, start with those three. Yeah. One is more spiritual, the other one are more into the basics and the activities that you can do to be happier.
Grace says, how would you suggest sustaining happiness when taking risks to go after passions while facing obstacles and doubts? I'm sure you're living that.
I love it. Yeah? That question, you can write an essay, a whole book on that. Wow, that's not easy. I mean, something important is at some point you can have easy and simple answers, but sometimes, and this is my thinking, my way of thinking. Sure. I want to think about the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So, a slightly long answer.
Yeah.
At least you have to keep in mind that there is a spiritual level. Mm-hmm. So we have our being, and we have our formless being. Mm-hmm. So this is very important, because if you only believe that we have a being, then you are going to be acting on your body, on your your physical, which is important. Mm-hmm. So physical is very important in order to achieve a lot. But I think that it's very important that we understand and at some point believe, but now we have the science to back it up, that there is another being, which is the formless. Mm-hmm. And some people call it the soul. So if you have a formless being that is connected to the universe, to other people, our minds are connected, and there's a lot of research on not just mirror neurons, mm-hmm. but actually on how the energy jumps from places to places and how we are connected, then I think that's very important, because if you don't believe in it, you have to go deeper into the spirituality. And you have to understand that connection with the universe, because that's going to give you a lot of clues. At some point, right now, there are so many techniques, Ho'oponopono and many others, that actually are asking questions always to the universe, and you will get the answer. Mm-hmm. So I think that the moment we are living today, that's very important. And at some point, if you do your exercise, if you go to the gym, if you eat properly, and you still don't get an answer, is probably because you are not connected to your formless being. So I think that that's a big one. And then relationships. I mean, another one which is key, and I think that this is very important, and we had this conversation as well a few days ago. Probably the world need more monks that do what you are doing, is coming to the world and actually making an impact and a transformation, actually helping others to achieve more. And I think that that's very linked to relationships and relationship building and the relationship capital. Mm-hmm. We talk to many psychologists that show you that real change happens in groups. Mm-hmm. So actually you don't belong to a tribe or to a group, you have to do it. Mm-hmm. Because it's not just about our personal change and actually understanding ourselves. It's actually how we belonging to groups and belonging to tribes, we can help each other to change. So I would say go more up, spiritual to the universe, and get a lot of friends.
Yeah, beautiful answers. Luis, one of the big things that stood out to me is I'm a big fan of, having lived as a monk, I read a lot about the Vedas, I read about ancient Eastern traditions. I also love Aristotle and the Stoicism and Stoics, etc. So I was reading from Aristotle, and like 2,000 years ago, there was a statement where Aristotle was saying that happiness is the ultimate goal, yet we use other things thinking. We only pursue anything believing it will ultimately bring us happiness. So if someone pursues money, they don't pursue money because they want money, they pursue money because they believe it will lead to happiness. If you pursue fame, and I think it was a great statement. And it's funny because in 2,000 years, we now have we're getting to driverless cars, we have drones, we have mobiles, etc. But we've not really made advances in this happiness space, maybe in parallel. Now, you've got these 7 principles of happiness, part of the World Happiness Summit that sit at the base of your work, the foundations of the work you do. Tell us about them and how you came up with them, because I think they're actually brilliant. And they really span across the key levels. And it's very much in line with, I know a lot of the viewers have seen the Book of Joy.
Yes.
And in the Book of Joy, when Doug Abrams came on, he was talking about how the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu both believe that happiness actually comes through cultivating qualities. So things like gratitude, things like compassion, that the access point. So these 7 principles, tell us more about them, because I think they're brilliant.
Yeah, I think that you know these people, and actually you go to the concept of the eudaimonia from Aristotle. Mm-hmm. This is very important because there are 3 basic definitions of happiness. One is a mood. So you feel it, you feel joy, you feel bliss. It's a mood, and actually food goes very much into mood.
Yeah.
So I want to feel passionate.
Yeah.
Well, there is food that now makes you passionate.
Yes.
So mood is critical. There is another definition which is more about satisfaction, overall satisfaction with your life. Mm-hmm. And then that brings you memories, and that brings you the past, and then you project that to the future. So depending on you look at happiness as a mood or satisfaction with life, then you have different answers and principles.
Yes.
But then there is a third one, which is the one that I feel more attached to and I like the most, which is the one that is in that space where you are in the flow, you are flourishing, you know that you can be at your best at some point, and actually that's going to have an impact in the world. So there is a bit of responsibility behind that.
Yeah.
So I think that when we build the 7 principles of the whole World Happiness Summit and now how we understand happiness and well-being as a whole, we are taking into account everything going on, from Gallups to positive psychology to happiness report to life good indexes to happy planet indexes. We are really creating a space where everybody can talk about their own definitions and how to do that. But in order to frame it, basically we created kind of 7 principles, but those 7 principles are basically based on mindfulness. It's having a full awareness of who you are in the world and what's going on around. One of them is about relationship building and how to find your power and basically how you build on those relationships. Is the power of purpose. It's actually finding, what is our purpose, ultimate purpose, and why we are here in this world. And if we can get to that best self at some point, helping others in many ways. There is one component that is very important, is the financial component. So there is a lot of debate about, well, money brings happiness or not. And I think that basically what you have is these two currents that try to talk to each other, but they don't bridge. And when they say, of course, I mean, money brings you happiness. And the other one is, why? Because at some point, if you don't have food to eat, if you don't have, some material things to attach, you're gonna be suffering. So this is interesting, but by itself is a debate. What is true, and this is what I found from research, are 2 things. One, money brings happiness, especially when you give it. So the sense of gratitude that you feel when you give money to others is amazing. The second thing is that to a certain level, you need to feel secure that you can live, that you can have a family that is going to be not struggling, but actually having some financial some economics that make them at least feel that they are secure. The feeling secure is very important. And that's a feeling as well. So how much money somebody needs? Well, it depends on what makes you feel that you are secure with that base. But that's another principle very important. Definitely. Because we need to show people how to manage their own finance. So I think that we can separate the mindfulness space from the relationship space, from the leadership and understanding of purpose, from the financial space, from the physical space. And this is very important because in the end, so much research shows as well that when you do sports, you generate those minerals in your body that actually make you feel better, but actually your body's better. Definitely. So something cool that we are bringing here is yoga, but not just yoga for people who like yoga. We are bringing sport in so many different ways. We are bringing Zumba. Nice. The Zumba movement is just huge. Huge. 15 million people dancing Zumba every single week. And actually, when you go to a Zumba class of 1 hour, it basically people get out really especially happy. Yeah. So yoga, I think, is something that when you understand yoga as union, and you understand that yoga is one of those disciplines that actually connect your physical with your spiritual and as well as your intellectual, that's very important. So I would say that, and then one of basically the 7th principle will be that intellectual curiosity. I think that we need to be curious. I think that we need to really keep on this growth path. For many people, happiness means growth. If you stop growing at the personal level or at the corporate level or at the societal level, then you stop actually feeling better. So I think that understanding and being curious about what makes you feel better and how to make an impact, that's very important as well. So
definitely, yeah. I love the way you've broken it down, defined happiness as well. And I think just even where you started from when you were talking about the difference between mood, and then moving into like higher levels of happiness and actually making a difference, and these 7 principles. I definitely recommend taking a look at those 7 principles for the World Happiness Day Summit. They're so well defined, and if you were to analyze your life across all of them, it would help you actually find the gaps as well, where you may not have invested a lot of time and energy for some time. So it's a great reflection tool. Now, we've been talking about happiness. You've mentioned the summit a few times. Tell us about how the UN has trusted you and given you the responsibility of running the World Happiness Summit, right? It's like, so tell us about the World Happiness Summit, why it's important, and the work it's doing, and how people can actually get involved.
Yeah, basically for every community, you need a gathering. And I think that the way we are organizing this World Happiness Summit is an amazing gathering of minds, of shapers, of game changers, who think that we should use happiness and well-being as the lens for human development. So, and there you have social innovators, you have thinkers, you have sociologists, you have philosophers, you have spiritual leaders. So basically what we are trying to bring down, actually listening to the United Nations resolution of bringing happiness at the individual level and at the national level, is to break down silos and bring as many of these people who are really making an impact in the world having a voice. Because the important here is to give a focus. Once you give a focus, as Aristotle you said, everything falls down. I think that we are getting ready is for something that brings academics, something that brings institutions, something that brings happiness and understand happiness at work, happiness at home, and happiness for oneself.
Wonderful.
So we are bringing all those different disciplines and of course celebrating happiness. So we are planning an amazing party in Miami in March, 17th, 19th next year. And I feel like it's gonna be an amazing party, but bringing the 7 elements and probably more elements that somebody will think about.
Sure.
And we want to feel. So actually the whole theme is feel, understand, act. So normally you go to events and gatherings and it's all about thinking. Okay, I'm gonna be there, I'm gonna be learning one thing and then I'm gonna try to apply it. No, here is the different. You are coming to feel. So from the beginning, it's gonna be sensorial. So 5 senses are gonna be applied, from smell to sound. We have a Grammy Academy award. Actually, the former president of the Latin Grammys, Quique Santander, who is curating the music. And that's going to be unique because music is going to be part of the experience, but from an intellectual point of view as well as experiential point of view. But then we are planning big activations such as focusing on one intention. So we invited Lynn McTaggart coming from the United Kingdom, and she's going to be teaching us how to actually set up an intention. And we all, in a collective, we are going to be thinking about that intention, and we are going to measure what happens with that intention. Definitely. But at the same time, we are bringing some technology. So we have partners such as Muse, Canadian company, and we are going to be measuring the brain waves. And then we are going to see what happens. So we want to do something that is sensorial, that is experiential, but at the same time brings a bit of science and brings tangible skills.
Yes.
So people can get with 27 skills and say, okay, this is my toolbox for the new year. But I feel like, yes, March 17th, 19th is going to be very special. We are getting support from almost every institution because, I mean, once you have something like this going on, what we are getting is more and more people who want to be part of the movement. And this is what I feel so amazed, because sometimes you start a project and you feel a lot of resistance and you feel like, oh my goodness, another one is saying no. Here it's amazing. It's like, I would say 100% of the partners we are approaching and saying, what do you want me to do? So I've been to Bhutan. And I met the Bhutanese government. Of course, the Samdhu Chetri, who is the executive director of the GNH. Well, the story of Bhutan is, you know it.
It's incredible.
But you know, it's something amazing that is going on. 45 years ago, this king, the 4th king of Bhutan, when he was 16 years old, he got the responsibility to govern to rule the country. And what he does is like, probably because he was 16, that's why we need to take care a lot of our children today and how we maximize the impact that they can do in society. He was insisting and say, well, I have to rule this country, I have to help people. I can use the normal lens, or I can actually go for happiness. And he created the gross national happiness, which is an index and is a way of doing public policy. But it's amazing because you go to Bhutan and you talk to the Bhutanese government and they say, Luis, if we can do something here, we'll be very happy helping. But then you go to an amazing space right now that is blooming, which is Dubai. And Dubai right now, there is a Ministry of Happiness. And it's a woman. And actually, if you see the strategy plan for the city, it's all based on raising happiness for the whole city. 1.2 million people. And they are really committed to make the whole city one of the happiest cities in the world. But then you go to places like Tech Millennium, Mexico. The whole university, 49,000 students, today go through a well-being and happiness program. So actually for 4 years, you're funding your purpose, backed up by science, and basically people are being educated in doing that. So I feel like what we are gathering in Miami is an amazing group of people who are changing the world, absolutely changing the world already, having the lens of happiness as the compass.
Incredible. And how can people get involved? How would you like everyone to be involved? From their workplaces, their homes, etc.?
Well, I think that the first thing you have to do is choose happiness. That's the first thing. Is once you do it, then you can celebrate that, or you can work on the skills at home, at work. Of course, please come to Miami. It's a nice place to be.
It's open to everyone.
It's open to everybody. We are looking for special people, probably the people who is your community. It's people who believe that we can do better, who believe that we can be happier, even just 1%, but who believe that we have the opportunity to be accountable and responsible for what's going to happen over the next years in the world. So we are looking for people who want to be part of this amazing community. And if you cannot come to Miami, that hopefully you can be connected online, you can be part of the technology app that we are developing. And of course, I feel like, you yourself is an example of how to do this right in the world. So I think people, at least you have to watch Jay every day.
Thank you so much. You're embarrassing me now.
No, but that's true. You are doing something that is so important in the world today, which is helping others to have a whole perspective. And because we are missing the whole perspective all the time. We simplify. There is a lot of research actually by Ariana Huffington as well that shows that negative news, just a few minutes in the morning of 30 minutes negative news, change your day.
Completely.
So you have 70% more opportunities during the day to do something where you are gonna not be feeling good. Just 30 minutes of negative news. So I think that what you are doing, 30 minutes of positive news, it will change the brain again in a positive mood. So I think that we need to choose happiness, we need to be choosing positivity, and what you are doing is exactly what we need in the world today.
Thank you, you're very kind. But such amazing insights from Luis right there. Luis, is there any last message that you want to leave the audience, anything you want to kind of crystallize or share with them that you feel we haven't covered today already?
Well, I would just say that this is the beginning. Every minute is the beginning of something in the world. I think that when you choose happiness, and we are talking about New Year's resolutions in many ways.
Yeah, what are yours?
Yes, for me, it's definitely choosing happiness. For me, it's definitely choosing and sharing. Because when you decide to do something and you focus your mind and your spirit in many ways to do that, normally you achieve it. But you really have to want to go and to do it. So my recommendation for everybody is that you choose something. Basically, you choose it, but actually you don't attach to it a lot. It's like choose it, don't attach, but think at some point that your feelings are gonna be helping you to achieve that much. And then go for it. and hopefully what you choose is positive, not just for you, but for somebody else.
Definitely. Wonderful words. Absolutely fantastic, Luis. You've been a phenomenal guest. Thank you so much for all your insights. I'm sure everyone's gained so much. And I look forward to seeing you again very, very soon. See you soon, guys. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Luis.
It was
so
great.
much.